Picture the Continental Army in the early years of the Revolutionary War, an under-equipped, outmatched collection of farmers, merchants, apprentices, and everyday colonists standing against the most powerful military force on Earth. But they had a secret weapon.
Determination, courage, and the belief that freedom was worth risking everything for. And it's a secret weapon that roused Marylanders to achieve heroic deeds, ones that would help earn the state its nickname. And here with the story today is author and amateur historian. This is Andy Nunez. Welcome, Andy.
Happy to be here.
So let's take us back. We have a few key players in this particular story.
Yes, we do. And from Maryland. It started, though, with a fellow from Baltimore. He was a wealthy planter named Mordecai Gist. And during the Revolution, when it first got started, he was all about the idea of independence because nobody liked all the stamp acts and the tea taxes and all the other stuff that the British were piling on. So when the Revolution started, he said, you know, Maryland ought to have a unit. So he formed, with a bunch of his friends, the first militia unit in the entire 13 colonies, right in Baltimore. And they were all well-to-do people like himself. They outfitted themselves. So he became the first person to actually form a regular unit in the whole Revolution. What happened with Gist's unit was it was integrated into a whole regiment of Marylanders under a veteran of the French and Indian Wars named William Smallwood. And then the Eastern Shore and all the other parts of Maryland, they all contributed troops. So much so that when the Continental Congress delegates came through Baltimore, they formed an honor guard. Not everybody had money like Gist did. So they had a bunch of, you know, stuff that you'd go out hunting birds with.
Yeah.
Right, sure.
You know, and stuff like that. And,
So tell us how did the Battle of Brooklyn play out?
Okay, so Gist and the rest of Smallwood's unit were asked to go to New York to join the siege of New York that the Patriots were doing against the British. They didn't know that the British were getting ready to reinforce. So Smallwood's unit took barge up to Head of Elk. They went to Philadelphia. They paraded before the Continental Congress at Philadelphia, and everybody noted how nice the Marylanders looked in their outfits. They called them macaroni. And because that was an expression in those days that a lot of rich people went to Italy, got hooked on pasta, and started dressing these fancy outfits. And so when the Marylanders came by in their nice hunting shirts, they were termed macaronis.
Macaronis.
Like in the Yankee Doodle, you
Sure.
know, put a feather in his
Called it
cap,
macaroni.
Called it
Okay.
macaroni.
I never knew that.
That's all part of this history.
So this was a significant battle.
It was.
Yeah.
This was George Washington's first encounter as Commander-in-Chief of the Army. He didn't know how many British troops there were. He didn't realize that 20,000 British troops had just landed under General Howe. So he had a line facing the British, and he had a fortification line up on the Brooklyn Heights. Now what he didn't know was there was a hole in his line. So the battle didn't go well. Here come the Hessians and the other British up on the side of this line. And everybody said, we got to get out of here or they're going to surround us.
Yeah.
So 400 Marylanders, 5 companies, stood up against 5,000 British troops.
So they were sacrificing basically so everybody else could get away.
Exactly.
Wow.
250 of them died. And George Washington was appalled. He says that I must lose such men this day because of how brave they were.
Why was Maryland ultimately called the Old Line State?
Because of this line.
Because of that line.
Ah, the old line. Okay.
This
And
was
there you
that line. Now, Washington himself did not call them that, but he always referred to them as the Maryland line because they stood when everybody else had a chance to flee. And they, 400 against 5,000, that was pretty tough odds, you know. And the British were terribly impressed by them. Their sacrifice that day in Brooklyn probably saved the Continental Army from destruction, because if they hadn't held them up, Washington couldn't have got back to his fortifications and would have been surrounded. The revolution might have been over at that point.
Wow.
So thank the Marylanders.
Dedicated to
Free
freedom.
country.
Yeah.
Yep. Andy Nunez, thank you so much. Always good to have you.